Hi, welcome to H7 Bus. I am Nathaniel Welch, and this is Conversations on a Broken Couch.
But it's not a couch.
But it's not a couch. We talked about that in the first episode.
We did?
Why? Yeah,
yes, we
why it's called what it's called.
All right.
Yeah.
Well.
How you doing, Scott?
I'm good. How are you, Nate?
I'm good. Brandon?
I'm still in my work uniform.
Well, when you gotta work, you gotta work. So
Gotta work.
that's how it is.
Yeah, so is working Saturdays just going to be a more normal thing for you now?
Yeah. Well, at least until landing gets back.
Okay. Huh.
Cool.
Well.
All right.
Yeah, how are you, Nate?
I'm okay, Scott. How are you?
I'm asking how your day is.
Oh.
I'm good. How are you? We're not going to keep this going. Come on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I had a good week. Yeah, a little tired, but I'll make it up tonight. Actually, maybe not. I usually don't sleep good on Saturdays because I got church in the morning, but gotta be there early. But I'll probably sleep okay tonight. Try to go to bed early. But yeah, I'm doing good. How was everyone's week though? Like, we're talking good weeks, bad weeks,
Good.
okay weeks.
Got some W's.
Been in jury duty all week, so I'm
Yes.
excited to not do that again.
To not
for
be
a while.
doing that literally all the time.
Yeah, it's long and arduous sometimes.
Yes. How was your week?
Lots of W's.
What kind of W's?
Like, are
Do
you
you
talking
really
about-
want me to break down what they are?
Are you
Because
talking about wings, or are you talking about just like good days?
wins.
Wins. Got it. Wins. Cool. No, we can probably just leave it there.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't want to go into the details.
Avatar update.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy, here we go.
It's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right.
Okay.
We watched, what, 7, 8, 9?
Yes.
Yes.
We did.
With, I'm trying to remember what happened.
Sorry.
The 9th one, there was a water scroll. That was
Yep.
pretty cool. It's funny how Katara,
Yep.
that's her name.
Yep.
Katara got like real jealous all of a sudden, but they're kids, so makes sense. 8 was with.
Iroh got captured.
No,
No,
that was
that was
seven.
That was 7. I remember that.
Iroh got captured.
That was
In
hilarious.
8, it had all the Avatar
The temple.
Roku.
Yep.
Yeah,
stuff.
that was cool, dude. That was wild. I didn't expect
They finally accepted the
it
main
to go
quest.
there once, and like 2 also. They literally like made it into Fireland,
Yeah.
and
That's
there
the
was a dragon in the previous episode, and also like
That's the equivalent in Skyrim when you finally make it to the
crazy
Greybeards. They accepted
spirit,
it.
and
pretty
yeah,
much.
it was cool. And 7 was good with the capture, and the panda was a little confusing. And
Hey,
some,
bye.
some of
Yeah.
that stuff was a little confusing, but it was good.
Hey
Good
Bai
episode.
was the panda spirit in charge of the forest, and when he was enraged, he turned into the monster.
Yeah, but they just
I wish I could do that.
didn't explain some of the spirit world stuff and all that. Yeah, it was
And they
good,
never
but just
will.
like
They never will.
really actually.
No.
Oh man, but
It's more of a
yeah,
plot
we
convenience.
haven't had a stinker of an episode yet. So, are there any of those?
I think there's maybe like 1 or 2 that I just kind of don't care about.
Okay.
I guess we'll see as we progress.
Now, like, what kind of not care are we talking about? Are we talking about like Goku and Piccolo driving not care?
No.
Oh no,
No.
that episode I care more about than anything.
That was a good
Are
episode
we talking
too.
about Goku and Piccolo driving, or like Jar Jar Binks in a Jedi cloak, like
Hey, I like
somehow
that
living?
episode too.
Like,
You know, honestly, I don't know if Avatar clearly has like some filler, but it
But-
doesn't have like bad filler.
No, and it's never filler that seems like it's unnecessary. Like, it still somehow moves the plot forward.
Because also, like, it is a Nickelodeon kids show, and so the big thing is, like, and kind of like what you were pointing out, like, they're kids, so Katara got jealous out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of this is a kids show. They're trying to teach kids
Yeah.
moral lessons. Don't be jealous.
don't steal. Also,
Right.
Even if it's from pirates, don't steal.
Don't do that.
I think the episodes we're coming up on is the first, like, Jet episode.
Jet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that substance that ghouls and Fallout smoke.
I was gonna make a Jet X joke, but nobody would get that. That'd just be me a Scott thing.
Jet X,
remember
that's
Jet
the
X?
generation your dad is, right?
No, that's Gen X. Gen X. Yeah, that's Gen X. Yeah.
Jet X. It was
Jet
like-
X was.
It was
It's what
the
like
Disney-
Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Power Rangers used to air on it. Spider-Man, the
Ninja
new.
Turtle. No, Ninja Turtles.
What was
might
it called?
be
Spider-Man, the new animated series was on Jetix.
Oh yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
I think was Turtles on it at all? I don't. Was
You
Sonic
know,
X
Turtles
on it?
might have been on it. I know that Old Turtles was on it. Sonic X was on it. I think it was on it.
Yeah, I
it was
remember
it was
now.
like Disney XD
Yeah.
before Disney XD.
Well, I'm gonna get us back
Yeah.
on track. Do you know what all those JetX shows and Avatar: The Last Airbender have in common?
What?
They are all tabletop role-playing games.
Probably. There's a Power Rangers
yeah, no,
one.
there's a
I
Power
don't think
Rangers
there's
He
a
has the
Sonic the
modules.
Hedgehog one though.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
He has it, I'm sure.
What?
What?
I'm
Is there
pretty
a
there
Sonic
has
the
to be.
Hedgehog?
Oh, I'm sure. I don't know.
TTRPG?
I don't know. I'm sure it exists. It might be a fan creation, but I'm sure it.
I hope not.
Because the last thing we need is Sonic OCs.
OCs,
but, like,
that's the last
actual-
thing we need.
Well, that was Sonic
So-
Forces, but
We are supposed to be talking about TTRPGs today.
This is the TTRPG episode?
Repisode. The repisode.
Episode. All right, so what is a TTRPG? It stands for Tabletop Role-Playing Game. Now, what are we talking about when you talk about tabletop games? Which new show coming soon?
yeah.
Be ready. When you hear that, you think like Uno and Monopoly. You think chess
Battleship.
and checkers and Battleship and Skip-Bo and Settlers of Catan
I've never
and
heard of
Clue
Skip-Bo.
and Quelf and
What is Quell?
it's wild. It's a crazy time. I know. Yeah.
Is it on Quail Farts? Or
No.
No.
And there's you think of all these games. You think of card games and board games, and they all are on top of a table. But we're not talking about Sorry. We're talking about things like Dungeons and Dragons or Starfinder or Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Or
Traveler.
Traveler. Is that
Yeah.
is that a
Yep.
thing?
I think they're on like their fourth
The
edition.
Fate role playing system, the Star Wars role playing game, the other Star Wars role playing game from like 20 years ago, that kind of stuff. We're talking about improv and rolling dice and dungeon crawls and magic and monsters and a bunch of friends just hanging out and spending their time like all using their minds to write a story together. That's what we're talking about. And we kind of that's a lot of how we've bonded over the past few years.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had, 6 years now?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
we,
really?
we
Yeah.
really dove
But
into
you
like
came into it late,
playing
but-
D&D in 2020, but before that we'd been playing the Star Wars role-playing game for 2 years.
Yep.
And so I want to ask the question, and I'll start with you, Scott, and then I'll see because I know me, but we'll see what Brennan has to say after that. But what was your first exposure to tabletop role-playing games, and what got you into them?
Okay, so my first exposure, I've always kind of heard of Dungeons and Dragons, but I never understood what it was. I used to see apps on like the App Store or something that was like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons. I never really understood what it was. Never got interested in it. But my first exposure to it were some YouTubers. If you've seen the Dragon Ball Abridged
Team
shows,
4-Star?
Team 4-Star
wow.
had a D&D series.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But that's what first exposed me to. I didn't understand it was D&D. I just thought it was this cool thing that they were playing.
Yeah.
And through that, I kind of got exposed to Star Wars somehow. I don't remember how
You learned about
how
the Star
that
Wars
happened
one.
about the Fantasy Flight games of Star Wars.
Did you find
system.
someone playing the system, or did you just see they have a Star Wars version of this, or what?
I don't remember. I genuinely do not remember. All I know is that I got super interested in it. Went ahead and I bought one of the core rule books.
You got
that was that.
Age of Rebellion, yeah.
Actually, yeah. No, I think I got both Edge and Age.
I think Ed was given to you.
I got the beginner book from Rich.
Okay.
But
you
I
bought
got the
Edge.
Edge
Okay.
and Age. So
Yeah.
the Star Wars system is broken down into 3 core rule books. There's Edge of the Empire, which is scoundrels and smugglers and bounty hunters, outer rim stuff.
Yeah.
The Age Rebellion, which is the second book and is
The Rebellion.
Rebels.
Yeah.
and then the third book is Force and Destiny,
Yeah.
which is all about the Jedi and Force and all that
So
mumbo jumbo.
instead
hokey
of getting
religions.
like a player's handbook or whatever.
Yeah.
And a, like DM's guide or a GM's guide. The way Star Wars works is it's basically like what kind of game do you actually want to run, and then just get those books.
Yeah.
Instead of giving you information for everything, you just get to choose what you want. So Age of Rebellion is here's everything you need to run a game with rebels and stormtroopers. Edge of the Empire is if you want scoundrels and intrigue, here's everything you need. And Force and Destiny is you want lightsabers, you want droids, you want HAAT tanks, you want LAAT fighters, like that's where you go.
So that was my first exposure to tabletop role-playing games.
You bought it.
I got you into it pretty soon after.
And you bought it and you wanted to play it and you wanted me to help you figure it out. And so we tried to learn the rules, which we didn't learn them right at all.
No, I think I don't think we've ever whenever we played the game we never really played it right.
Which we figured it out since.
Yeah.
But we haven't played it.
Yeah,
since.
I know how to play it. I've just never actually been able to run a game.
You know what I'll say though?
then.
Even though we played it wrong, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was still fun.
So much fun. So many memories. So many stories. Whether they were correct or not.
Correct or not.
Yeah. We had
just
fun.
it.
The rule
It's
of
like,
cool.
The rule of cool, man.
We thought we knew the basics, and we kind of like we had been exposed to D&D at this point. By like a few years in, we had into playing Star Wars. Like we had played like 1 or 2 D&D games, and that's all. And but Star Wars was still our main thing because that's what everyone preferred to do.
Yeah.
And but we thought like, certain things like leveling up, we thought that was down to the DM to choose when you get XP, because it was an XP system. It's not levels. Whereas no, there's actually like you actually have to calculate it. But we just thought like, how much XP are we going to get, and how much does everything cost? And we had all the numbers wrong and all that stuff. But you know,
We had a fun time.
we there's certain things like your base stats can't change once
Once
they're set
character
with
creation is
creation.
over, your base stats or whatever you get them to cannot go up or down.
And only
you
your
can't
skills
buy into
can.
them.
So whereas in like D&D you get ability score improvements and stuff like that, and that doesn't happen. That can happen in Star Wars, but it's a lot harder to achieve.
Right.
And so we had dudes who had like 7 decks or whatever.
I had that from
what
the
was it? Agility. He
I had
just
it from the
leveled
beginning.
up all his stuff, and he'd roll and he'd have like 6 yellow die.
I want to point out, I did that in character creation. I never buffed it
No,
afterward.
but I mean, there were things like that became a normal thing because people would buff them, or you would just like keep leveling up your skill, like put away those greens, start bringing in those yellows.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
To clarify, we were not playing the game right at the time.
we were not playing right, but it was a lot of fun. So that was
I was still doing it wrong, but
still fun.
so you wanted to play, and we learned it and got a group of guys together, and you GM'd.
I GM'd. It's my first time. I was not expecting to GM. I was hoping I'd be a character, but everybody else did not want to do it. So I, like
But
many GMs
that's
in
how
this
it
hobby,
works.
as the first ever game mother of our group,
Game master. Yeah. So
that's a deep cut.
it's really like, but I mean, it obviously makes sense. You're
Was it a
coming,
cut?
you're coming to the rest of the guys and going, hey, have you heard of this? I want to do this thing, and
No.
none of us had, and so it makes sense that you ended up being the GM. But
Yeah. We only had one person in our initial group who actually knew what a tabletop role-playing game is, and the only time he'd played was in Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah.
yeah,
So
what was it?
it was Rich.
Oh, okay.
you had played before. So Brandon, what was your intro to tabletop role playing games? Had you played any before, or was it just still? Was it when we were like, hey, come play Star Wars?
I had never played an official game,
Okay.
but when I lived up on Goldstream Road, over off Penrose, I lived in that nice house up on the hill. I found a box of my uncle's old 40K stuff. That's what actually that sparked my 40K as well.
Yeah.
But I found his rule books, all of his minis. He had a Tau army that I gave you.
I still have them.
They need to be repainted badly.
They do. They were rainbow colored.
I did a horrible job when I was a kid painting those.
Which that's not as much of a tabletop role playing game as it is like a war game, but mechanically it might be similar.
Well,
right?
no, it is. The one he had was a tabletop
It
role
was?
playing game
Okay.
because he had Space Hulk. So 40K encompasses. See, I always
It
end
always
up
comes
there,
back
no
to
matter
video
what I
games.
do. I was trying not to bring it up in your intro. There's like 20 different tabletop games. You have the war game, and then you have like the 5 TTRPGs.
Okay.
There's a lot.
There's
Okay.
like
I didn't know that.
yeah, there's Rogue Trader. There's I don't remember what it's called. It's like Death Watch, Kill Teams.
Mm-hmm.
You have Space Hulk. All these things you can do. But anyways, that was my first exposure.
Okay. And so you never played it, but did you like want to play it, or did you read about it, or?
Always wanted to play
Yeah.
it. It looks so cool. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I was also like kind of like sheltered kid
Uh-huh.
when I was young. And then like I was like, "Oh, this is cool and rebellious. I want to do it."
That's funny. What about you, Nate?
So for me, it was I knew some kids in school, in middle school, who played D&D in the library, just for
Really?
like 30 minutes a day, because
That's
that's all they could
wild.
get, right? But but it was cool. One of them was a good friend of mine. But I never played. I had no idea what they were doing, and I didn't really want to play. I prefer to go play, like, one, eat my lunch,
Yeah.
which you can't do in the library, and then 2, if I get to the library, I'd rather play like flash games than
Cool math games.
than
Did I remember?
than
those?
actually play some whatever the heck they were doing. So yeah, like I had heard about it for sure. I didn't know about the whole like satanic panic though, which, you know, looking back now, obviously some of the things people freak out about, you know, that a lot of Christians and just parents in general freaked out about back in the day of like, oh, like D&D's an occult activity. There were generally like actually some people somehow making this like Lord of the Rings improv simulator into an occult activity.
Which is just messed up.
Which yeah, I don't know how that happened, but you know, and we've heard actually stories of people we know who had like family members who did it that way, but
Yeah.
for us, you know, I'd never heard of that. Our parents had, but you kind of wanted us to start playing Star Wars, and which was kind of thought of also as just Star Wars D&D. And I think if I remember correctly, you said to Mom like, "Hey, I want to do this," and she went, "No, this is bad," and you said, "No, but it's actually not. Like, let me." And she said like, "Okay, well, like, do the research, give me the evidence, and then if it's like okay, I'll let you do it."
Yeah.
Is
You had to
is
like
that
bargain
right?
your
Like,
case.
Kind of.
Dormammu, I've come to.
No, I had to. For the Star Wars part necessarily, it wasn't like major. It was fine. But when we actually started switching to D&D, and part of that happened because we had a player who, when their parent found out that we were playing, that we switched over to Dungeons and Dragons, they were pulled out of the group. So
Who?
we we don't need to say any names.
Gotcha.
But
Sorry. my bad.
if anyway, so I went through and I kind of figured out, hey, what's going on here? What's all this about? And brought it to my mom. I was like, all right, this is what I got.
Yeah.
And so whenever we never really got faced with an issue where somebody was like, hey, is this good or not?
Yeah.
But, you know, whenever there was, if there ever, you know, anything ever happened, you know, we had
Mom, literally
Mom,
like
you know,
one of
one of
our
our
pastors,
pastors.
like is ready to say,
and-
hey, this is okay.
So it wasn't really a big issue, and that's kind of what we did. We had D&D at the church for a while, and then COVID hit, and once that happened, we were kind of in a lull for a bit.
Yeah. We had just the week before quarantine. Mm-hmm. It was I think it was the week before quarantine. You had started a Waterdeep Dragon Heist game, and we played the first session. Quarantine happened.
Yeah.
We miss, you know, however many weeks until it was okay for like a few of us to meet back together again.
Yeah.
And then even in like where, you know, we can have 10 people we don't know in a room, like who really aren't going anywhere, and so kind of we became each other's like friend like group that we'd often be out with.
That was kind of the start of the new group.
We can keep playing, and so we did. Like we had a lot of people. We actually had like half our players move, and so. Yeah, it was totally the start of a new thing, and kind of since there we've never looked back and just have like run with D&D.
Yeah, we had
that.
players move, we had players get married and start new jobs and go to new life. And I think as far as that original group goes, the three of us are the only ones left.
Yeah,
broke my heart with that sentence.
we had two guys who played sometimes, but they weren't there every week. And we still play with them sometimes too, but they're also busy a lot. So.
Some of those games, even though they were chaotic sometimes they weren't great memories.
Yeah.
They were some of the funnest times I've had.
A lot of growing pains.
A lot of growing pains. We all had, experiences, or we probably have stories.
We all had expectations too, like different expectations of what we wanted.
Believe it or not, Nathaniel was not always a very well-behaved, well-adjusted young man.
I was not, man. Because the thing was, Scott had introduced me to tabletop role-playing games before he even... Well, like, we had played Star Wars, but my introduction to D&D is he said he just showed me... showed me a D&D show, right? Like, watching other people playing D&D.
Critical Role.
Since that, I've, like... And I've since then, I had seen others and stuff, but I watched these guys play, and I was like, okay, they're taking this really seriously.
Yeah.
This is actually like improv, and there's like
professional actors.
There's like a lot of care on their side, and they really want to tell an interesting story, and but everyone else just wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
And for me, like that, like taking it really seriously and like knowing the mechanics and like playing off one another and really trying to tell a good story as a group, like that was fun to me. But for other guys, it was just like, I'm gonna go wrestle a panda, like stuff like these wacky things, right?
Yeah.
Like let's go play sabacc at the bar or whatever, right? So
I'm gonna stab this guy for no reason at all.
it took
We
some
had a lot of
adjusting,
that.
but eventually it got to the point, like in the past few years, where I learned that I just like hanging out with the guys, and so I was able to kind of dial back a little. And as everyone got more interested and as we played more, they wanted to get deeper into it, and so now we're kind of all in our expectations are kind of the same, and we're able to just have fun whenever we do play. But I just thought that really interesting. Like D&D and role-playing games are an example of any activity, like most things, where if you want to make it bad, you can make it bad. Like video games are not bad, but there are obviously like video games that contain things that you should not play, right? And the same thing, like D&D is not bad, but you can obviously
stuff exists that you can choose to put in that is bad.
Yeah. The game is only as bad as the person running it,
right?
And the person controlling what's going on. Controlling, I say with,
controlling.
That's running the game, and we like it, and it's cool because we all like Lord of the Rings. We all like Narnia. Trying to think of other fantasy things. Skyrim. Big one.
There's a lot. It's just we're blanking at the moment. Like Dragon
Age
and
stories of Merlin and Robin Hood
World of
and
Warcraft.
Arthur and
World of
WoW
Warcraft. Final Fantasy.
Any game idea. There is so much World of Warcraft inspiration.
Oh yeah,
it's unreal.
And that's why your games are some of my favorite to play.
It's so just I love it.
But this is an opportunity for us to look at this thing that kind of takes, or seemingly takes inspiration from all these other things we like, and just hang out and spend time with one another, but also like get the war game side of it, where you're fighting a monster and we all have like our own abilities that we've picked out, and you're rolling this die, and so there is that thing of a video game, where sometimes you miss, like a Final Fantasy, sometimes your attack misses and all that kind of thing, and like a game like Fire Emblem, sometimes you have advantages depending on
Depending on
you
what
know,
kind of weapon
what
you're
weapon
using
you're
and
using, or
stuff,
what spell
yeah.
you're using, or what kind of position you found yourself in.
I'm so sorry.
And also, you're like making your own stories that only exist in your memory, right? It's super interesting. I heard a
At
I
the
heard
end
a
of the day,
statistic that like the part of the brain there's a part of your brain that is active when you're and when that's active you are making memories. You're like actively like taking in that information or taking in the moment, and it kind of goes in your brain memory bank. And it's interesting because D&D is an activity that when you're playing it and you're like immersed and you're imagining you as this like as your character who you're playing as, like those events are actually stored in the same place.
yeah.
And so for some of us, like we think of memories of things, you know, one of your characters had done, and we think of it as memorable in the moment, imagining the world as we do real life.
Yeah.
Just because it's kind of an interesting activity, and I don't know if that's like a subconscious thing that like draws people to keep playing just because of how it works with your brain or whatever. But we have had a lot of fun with them. So, but out of all the systems we've played together, it's really been
Nice.
D&D, Star Wars, and Fate.
Yeah.
Which Fate's super flexible. It's
Fate's
made as
fun.
like just a really simple
It's very cinematic.
cinematic kind of blueprint system. So like you just take these abilities and these mechanics and you should be able to make them work in any genre or kind of whatever you want to do. So out of the three we've played, which has been your favorite? Which
Why don't
is
you
your
go
favorite to
first,
play?
Brandon?
From different perspectives, my favorite to play in is D&D. I think if I were to DM one, my favorite would likely be Fate because it's much looser.
It's flexible. Yeah.
And it would lend better to my style of what would happen if this?
Yeah.
And then I just spew some nonsense out and the players get to react off of it.
Yeah. What about you?
So I've DM'd Star Wars the most. I've DM'd so many games. Like I
You
have
probably
so
DM'd,
many.
I think you probably DM'd D&D the most though.
D&D has been
At this
the one I've
point,
done the
but-
most. I've had.
There's a reason we call you the game mother.
Well, you call me that because of Alien.
Oh,
Because that-
you've played Alien. That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't. I haven't
we
played
did
that one. I haven't played that one.
we did Alien. We did a small
But-
Alien campaign, and in that there's like the game master or the dungeon master.
I feel like that the game mother has just transcended Alien at this point.
Yes,
you
I know.
are the game mom.
Thank you.
That is what it is.
As far as like I said, D&D I've done the most. I really enjoy D&D for its combat. I think it could be better. I think that a lot of that system could be so much better.
Oh, you're talking about 5e.
5e,
Fifth edition.
yes, 5th
Yeah.
edition D&D. But I've played so much of it that I'm used to it and I know it. But my favorite system is the Star Wars system. After now fully like realizing and figuring it out, I think it takes everything that I like in video games and in RPGs, and it kind of does a really good job of portraying all of that. The only thing I wish was done a little better was probably its combat system. Its combat system is not bad by any means. It's just it feels a little more complicated than it kind of needs to be sometimes.
Yeah.
With games like D&D, it's very simple. How do you start combat? Whose turn goes first? What do you do in your turn? It's pretty simple. And with Star Wars, it feels like there's so much that one person can do right off the bat that it's kind of complicated. And if you don't know what you can do for one action or for one bonus action or a maneuver, that's what they call it in there, it gets a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
And Star Wars
it
and
is-
its system, which its overarching system is called Genesis.
Yeah.
That's the bigger system, or it's not really bigger, but it's the system that Fantasy Flight Games
It's based
made.
off of the Genesis system.
Well, I think Star Wars came out first, and then Genesis was made to be more of a third-party system, so that you didn't just play Star Wars with this.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is my favorite.
Yeah, I'd have to say for me, and it's probably just sheer playtime, and it's D&D. It's what I'm the most comfortable with, probably because I've ran it the most, I've played it the most, right? I've seen it the most, I've read it the most, I've studied it the most, I've prepped in it the most. I'm just the most comfortable with it. I really like Fate for its flexibility, but there's this thing where I feel like Fate's a little too flexible. I don't think there's enough rules and limitations to it.
So I will say that the Fate that I have shown you guys has been the bare bones of Fate.
There is deeper stuff.
There is deeper stuff. There is an actual rule
into,
system to it.
Which comes down to stunts and all those kind of things, which I really like. If I was introducing people to tabletop role-playing games for the first time, I'd probably run a Fate game.
Yeah.
Just because of the simplicity. And I think it won't limit them in a bad way. I think you need to have limitations. To quote a really popular DM, Matthew Colville, limitation breeds creativity. You need that. You need to have limitations. Me only having an action and a bonus action and movement on my turn in D&D means I have to be creative with what I'm going to do in a combat round, right? Yeah. And Fate obviously probably won't limit you, but at the same time, I feel like that can hinder new players in a negative way sometimes.
Sure.
If they're too limited, just depending on who it is. It obviously depends on the people I'm playing with, but yeah, I'd probably just have to say D&D. I mean, I like the Star Wars system, but also my opinions, I think, honestly, are just super subjective and biased because my memories with Star Wars aren't as great as they were with D&D, and my memories with Fate were pretty good, but I also remember at times being man, because there is so much creativity here, I feel or so much freedom, I feel like there are things I can't do because there's not a rule for it.
Yeah.
Right? So D&D was a nice balance for me. But that's that. Our favorite systems. Then if we're talking about characters we've played, there's been a lot. You've spent a lot of time. I'll say this first. We've all done our fair share of DMing. I've definitely played more than I DM'd just because, scheduling wise, most of the time we were playing in one of your games. So we've played in your games more than you've played in our games. But which of the two do you prefer? DMing or playing?
Right now, playing. But that's just because I don't have a whole lot of time to DM or do all the planning for DMing.
Okay.
I've always preferred playing.
You do?
More now than previously. When I first started DMing, I was like, this is cool, this is exciting. And then as the game progresses forward, player expectations get greater and greater. And it's oh yeah, did you read my 15-page backstory? Well, no, I didn't. I don't like 15-page backstories. I'm a simple person. I would rather you come into my game with a new, fresh character that doesn't have 10 years of battle experience behind them.
Yeah.
So it's just for me, it's DMing is tough, and I have to be in the mood for it.
Yeah.
And so it depends on the day. 98% of the time, I'd rather be a player.
Yeah, I feel 98% of the time I'd probably rather be a DM. And that's
Really?
crazy because... But here's the deal, I was a player for so long, and then I finally started DMing, and there was about 4 months where I was our perma DM.
I wanted you so bad.
And after that, because of how busy I got, I was rarely playing D&D with you guys anymore. And I finally came back every once in a while to play, and I had no idea what I was doing anymore. I don't know how to play. I still don't. I still really don't know how to play anymore. I just know how to DM. And there's a lack of context a lack of comfortability. Like, part of why I was so comfortable playing was because we were playing in like Scott's like world he had created, and his version of, you know, it's his own Middle Earth, it's his own Narnia, it's his own, like, his version of that he was making. And you were letting me make that with you in a sense. And so, like, when you were making stuff, you were saying, hey, what do you think? But then also you let me, like, say, what if you did this? Like, you gave me chunks to do my own thing. And so I was fully aware. I knew all the information. And so I was able to play and, like, from the mindset of going, okay, I'm acting as if I was really this person, you know, who has a backstory and who has, like, dreams and desires and wants and flaws. And I feel like I was able to more genuinely react to the game and also just be more comfortable playing that character because I knew all the information. Like, I love combat, so I can play D&D and just play combat and then just, like, I'm okay with just sitting back and letting everyone carry the story. But just because as a player, like, I don't know how to I feel like I don't know how to naturally respond to the game anymore. Yeah. Whereas a DM, I'm like, dude, let's do this, let's engage. And honestly, in the past, like, I've definitely overthought my planning.
Yes.
I've definitely
that's okay.
Overplanned and underplanned, and I've definitely like, in retrospect, learned a lot from my mistakes or bad sessions or that kind of thing. To where, like, if I, you know, maybe in Missouri, I'll meet a group of people who want to play and I can run for them or whatever, like, once every 2 weeks or something. But, you know, I don't know. But, yeah, I think now I could just DM much more comfortably than I could ever play. And I would just I think I'd always prefer to do that, honestly. Yeah. But that's just me. So then there's characters.
All right, here we go.
The thing about tabletop role-playing games is we've been talking about this DM, GM, or player thing. And so what does that mean? Well, the way it kind of works is you have one guy who learns all the rules. And he is the one who's going to, like, tell the story. So the story could be, okay, you guys all start in a tavern. And, like, a bunch of orcs come in. Like, what are you going to do? And that's when it's up for the players to decide what they're going to do.
Can I make a mild correction on
Okay.
you? And this could be just perspective difference.
I'll say start the story, not tell the story.
That's what I was going to say. I wouldn't say tell the story. I would say more like narrate what is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like the final say on whether something will or won't happen.
Yeah.
But they're also the one who's, like, bringing the ideas to the table. They have the control of the rest of the world that you're playing in. And so as you... So that's the role of the DM, is to, like, react to the players and create a world for the players to be in, and also bring in, like, plots, and they act out, like, NPCs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they like run the enemy, like, monsters and stuff. But then as a player, you make a single character, and your job is to be in the world and solve the mysteries and explore the dungeons and save the girl from the goblins and all that kind of stuff.
And
the blacksmith's daughter. It's always the blacksmith's daughter.
You do that as a character. You do that by
Yeah.
asking the DM questions.
Yeah.
You know, if as the DM you're like, okay, so this is what's around you. This is what the tavern looks like, or this is what that cave looks like. Here are some little notes you see here. And as a player, you'll be asking things like,
hey, is there a blue dragonborn in this tavern by chance?
yeah, exactly. And then the DM would be like, probably have you roll a 20-sided die. Mm-hmm. And depending on your roll, from like 1 to 20 and other little modifiers that are on your character sheet, you would get your score. Yeah. And depending on that, the DM would tell you what's the outcome, with 1 being bad and 20 being great.
Yeah. So let's just simulate this for a second. Okay, ready? I got it. I've already planned this all out. Okay. So you are just like a normal guy, like, let's say, human fighter, with, like, a soldier background. Yeah. Let's say you're Thomas. You are in a bar. Just like it's maybe like 9, you just sat down for breakfast. All right, you are a, like, elvish ranger. Dope. And you have been sent to look for this guy because, like, you know his friend Edward is in danger.
Okay.
And
cool.
And you're trying to find him.
I feel like I thought about this.
So let's figure this out. All right. So you wake up to the smell of fresh cooked stew on this morning as you find yourself in the Broken Tankard Inn. you get up out of your room, move downstairs after getting your armor back on, and go and find yourself a seat at this tavern. The room is about 20 by 20, pretty small, but it is a nice place even for its size, with a few tables and chairs sat around the room and a small bar towards the entrance where a orc finishes leaving and the door shuts behind him. And as that happens, someone comes over from cleaning a table and walks over to you, and she says, what would you like for breakfast, sir?
I'd like the potato stew.
And then, so like that's an idea of the DM describing, right? And then now he's reacting. And so then I'd say something like, all right, anything else? Because now I'm reacting to what he said.
No, thank you. I'm good, thank you.
All right, that will be 2 copper.
Here's a gold.
Thank you. And then they leave and
As all
go back to the bar.
adventurers, I'm rich.
And as
With a soldier background.
as she goes back to the bar, the front door opens again, and in walks this. How would you like to describe your character?
Long, flowing blonde hair, giant pointed ears, and great green eyes with a green cloak.
Oh, dude, you look like a blood elf from World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it was kind of the
That's
inspiration.
a genuine reaction. That's how I would react in person.
What would you like to do?
I'm gonna look around and see if there's any lame human fighters in this room.
All right, make a perception check.
Yeah, and so I would roll a die, and depending on what the roll is, I would add it to my perception score, which is one of like the many skills that I would have on my character sheet.
As you look around the room, you see a red-headed waitress delivering some potato soup to this man who fits the description of the one you've been told to look for.
I walk over to him.
All right.
I tap him on the shoulder.
What do you want?
Hey, I got some info for you.
Who are you?
I am Reginald, the elf.
So something interesting
Yeah.
here is I could have gone, all right, you begin walking to the, what do you call it? The booth. You begin walking to the booth as the sound of the wood creaks beneath your feet. You hear someone walking up to your table and you sit down. Like I could say that, or you could go, all right,
I begin
I'm going to go over to the bar.
towards the bar table.
And then once you get there,
weaving past
you can
people.
say, yeah, I'm going to weave past people and then I'm going to sit down. Like, that's a choice you have as a
Yeah.
player to decide whether you're going to say that or not. Or I can describe it for you. It honestly just depends on, like, the moment and what kind of player you are. Some people prefer to describe those things. Some other people don't. And now you've sat down. You're having the exchange. You're giving them the information. And we play from there. Like, that is kind of that shows the dynamic of the player and the DM. And so the players, you're making your own character, though. You're figuring out what powers do I have, what was my history, what skills do I have, what am I a human, am I an elf, am I a dwarf? You know, do I use magic or do I prefer a big old battle axe and all that stuff? So, yeah, who was your first character?
Oh boy.
J.J. Carson.
Well, it has to be Star Wars for us, right?
For you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, because that was the first
he
time
played
you played
D&D
with us.
first.
That's right.
I played D&D with you as
Yeah.
my game master.
Okay, so my first character was an astromech droid.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because you could do that in Star Wars.
Uh-huh.
And so I played an astromech droid, and I, like, spliced a few doors, and I think I threw a frag grenade. And that's kind of all I
You
did.
threw
the
a
whole
frag
game.
grenade, and I think you might have almost killed somebody.
No, that was the next session.
Oh.
Would you rather me
I
tell
didn't
you-
throw that, though.
Oh.
But
Would you rather my first Star Wars character then?
no, I meant your first character ever.
Okay.
So, I forgot you played JJ first. So, yeah, I did that, and it actually didn't go great. And so the next session, I made like a, stereotypical Order 66, like a Jedi who survived the Order 66 and is in hiding, but is with the rebellion, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then
But
we
then-
came in together.
But then, yeah, we eventually, I wanted to run a D&D game, and we were looking for another player, and you were interested for a while, and you had finally started to get like some, your evenings were open every once in a while, and so you wanted to come and join us. Was that your first time playing too?
That was my first time playing too.
So it wasn't.
Wow.
It was,
we played together for the first
Wow.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Who were your first?
You were Orga, right?
I was. Yep. And you were JJ.
Orga and JJ. No wonder that duo is so iconic. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's
So-
wild.
So who are these guys? Who are these guys?
Yeah. Describe JJ.
JJ Carson is a half human, half elf ranger who his original backstory, and I think it's maintained, right? I kept it pretty much the same.
Yeah.
His backstory was that he lived on his own out in the woods with his dad, and eventually, seeing the financial situation his father was in, left to go adventuring and became a bounty hunter. Thus, he became a hunter ranger ranger hunter subclass.
Yeah.
And then eventually paid for his father to live in a nice home until he passed away of old age, and then just went and
Became an
continued
adventurer.
being a bounty
Yeah.
hunter.
Yeah.
And then he ran into that party
Yeah.
because he was paid to find a dragonborn individual by the name of Orga and bring him in.
And
Yeah.
that's Scott's character.
My character Orga, which his name Orga was a nickname for a longer, more complicated
One of the
name.
kind of stereotypical. He's got 9 names.
Yeah,
We're
he's
just-
got like 4 names or something.
Orga da baga da booga da hooga da.
Sure. I think it was like Octavius or something.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I think Octavius was your first.
I probably remember it in the back of my head somewhere.
Yeah.
But he was a blue dragonborn, and because we were going off of D&D Beyond, I was using the Blood Hunter class.
Yeah.
So good.
And I think he was mixed with a Hexblade Warlock.
No, I think you were just using the
It was the subclass
the Blood Hunter subclass that lets you
with the
get
Hexblade.
the pact
That's
of
so
the
cool.
whatever.
Yeah, and he was
Order.
he was kind of like
yeah.
this big knight that could summon a like a sword, and he had this really cool shield. But he was like a scion of a distinguished family that wasn't like a bunch of kosher people, and so he essentially ran away from there and became a monster hunter.
Yeah.
And so he was kind of, at the time of our characters meeting, because we were at like level 10 when we started the game, he was essentially a teacher.
Yeah.
He was teaching people how to defend themselves and how to take care of themselves in the wild while also hunting monsters.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Is we kind of I had asked what would people be interested in, because I kind of wanted to run a one shot and hopefully turn it into an actual campaign. And Scott and I we've always been playing Monster Hunter for years, right? And so we kind of had this fun idea of like, well, what if we did a kind of like Monster Hunter, thing, and where there's a guild, and there's a cat that cooks a lot of food and talks and all this kind of stuff. And so we started doing that, and yeah, it was fun. So the idea was Scott, even though he's the same level as everyone else, is a higher rank hunter who's going to be teaching these recruits how to he's going to take them on a pretty great hunt or
expedition.
whatever. Yeah.
My favorite memory of that game. Are you ready, Nate?
Yeah.
Near the end of the session, we finally find the monster we're supposed to be hunting.
No, that was the beginning of
This
the
was the
session.
beginning of the second session. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're
we
right. Okay, we found the dragon.
The whole thing is, they were going to hunt an adult red dragon.
Let me finish this here. We get to the dragon, and I go, guys, I have a spell that lets me be really sneaky. I'm going to sneak up on it and see if I can, take it out, not take it out, but, disable it somehow and make it easier for us.
Yeah, cut a wing or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get up to it. I have a knife in my hand above its eyeball. As I'm about to stab this thing, 2 of our other
'Cause it
players
was
join the
sleeping. It was
table.
sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 other players join the table late, and they say, "We come in loudly playing bagpipes."
So, if any of you are Spyro fans, I played the bagpipes music from the Seder level in Spyro, and
So
the
good.
way we kind of described it is the dragon wakes up and turns and is trying to figure out what's happening, and it's as shocked as you are looking at them and yeah, then
so
combat
funny.
started. Yeah, because those guys hadn't been there for the first session, and so one of them played bagpipes and the other played drums, and so one guy's going.
The other guy's
Yeah, it's just
But
It was good.
It was such
good,
a
though.
great memory. It was the first time I ever looked at a party member like, what are you
What
doing?
are you doing? Yeah. And they were new too, so
It was such a good time though.
It was so fun.
that was fun. Yeah, I was just thinking about some of the, like, all the different games we've played, and there's been a lot of hiccups. Like, I remember at one point, there was, I don't know if it's still around anymore, a Star Wars system that, like, based itself off of D&D rules and stuff. And so
We
we
never
tried to
tried it,
play a
did we?
game, and we
was
only
3.5.
made, like, two... No, there was a 5th edition one, though.
Was it?
We
Oh
only
no,
made, like,
that
two
was
sessions in.
not. It was a fan made.
Oh, it wasn't official?
No, it was not official. It was fan made.
Okay. We only made it like 2 sessions in, but that was a campaign where we all decided we're gonna take this really seriously,
Yeah.
and we all wrote like expansive backstories, and we all took it really seriously when we literally all were orphans.
Yeah. Everybody was
And
like.
just, we
Everybody
all wrote
was
like
orphans.
dark backstories and heavy serious
When
stuff.
was
See,
this?
It was in between games.
Pre me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was post. I think it was post Monster Hunter, pre Rusty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had
forgot. Oh, Rusty.
I
was
thought, oh, I'm probably gonna be the only one with a really like serious developed backstory. Nope, I wasn't.
Oh no. We had 2 players who were Mandalorians, who were both orphaned. We had one person who was an orphan who had like some kind of like force sensitivity thing going
Yeah.
on. You were a were you?
No, I wasn't.
No,
Jedi.
you were
I was
a trooper.
I was a Republic troop, like a Republic trooper.
Yeah, this
who-
was like Old Republic.
Yeah,
like the MMO.
who had, like,
era.
who, had
Like
like,
anti-Sith training.
A Jedi parent, but was not force sensitive himself. He had like a brother, but his
Yeah.
parents had been killed by the Sith, and he was like, a guy who had a commando squad whose job was to take out Sith or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Dude, Old Republic was sick.
The game didn't last more than 2 sessions
No.
because actually this might have been pre. This actually might have been pre.
It was
JJ.
it was pre-Monster
Yeah,
Hunter.
because what happens is Scott plays twice. He runs this twice. He runs this game twice, and he comes to me one morning, the morning after, and just sits down on my bed and goes, "I'm not having fun,"
Yeah.
and I said, because I was still in bed. I'd been up for like 20 minutes though, and I say, "I'm not either." And he's like, "You want to switch?" And I'm like, "I thought you'd never ask." And so that's when my love of a DM happened, because I realized, like, well, I can set expectations, I can adapt to the group, and my brother can have a good time. And if he's having fun, I'm having fun.
That's
So
how I feel nowadays.
that's
Scott's
when I-
having fun.
That's
having
when
a
I
great time.
adapted and changed. And so I was like, well, I want to play D&D because I know how to do that. I don't know how to do Star Wars.
Yeah.
And even though I'd done like a Star Wars session in the past, but
Yeah, you did that one with Isaac.
yeah, it was. From there, we switched to D&D. That didn't really like work out too much because people didn't want to play D&D. And so then we had this thing where we went back to Star Wars. We both tried to learn it, and we switched every other session. And so I had a character that basically would do like nothing when I was DMing, and you had a character who would do basically nothing when you were DMing, and we kind of just switched off. And so it's like, all right, which one of them is staying with the ship today?
Yeah, and that campaign actually did pretty good for a while.
Yeah, we went for a long time.
Eventually, it switched back to me being the full-time DM.
Didn't you all die to Darth Vader by the end of that?
No, that was the first campaign.
No.
This was the second one.
No.
Um,
Yeah. What?
That did happen. That was
I
fun.
think what happened is, yeah, I was, and this is, and all in retrospect, none of this, if we had just like talked to one another, and like this wouldn't have happened. But I felt like I stopped having fun because I felt like I wasn't being like treated kindly because I was young.
Yeah.
And there were some problems there that don't exist anymore. But yeah, like I stopped showing up sometimes. I stopped wanting to play. I stopped wanting to DM because I wanted to be like
Respect.
treated with respect, which most of you did.
Yeah.
Even though I was 5 years younger than most of you, right? But
I think, if I remember correctly, it was one individual that you struggled with.
who actually we play off each other really great now. So
You guys get along
No,
so
you guys are
great.
great.
now.
You
Yeah.
guys are hilarious.
You know, it was funny because you guys had all these problems, and then, you know, like 2 years later when we started, or I guess a year later when we started up Waterdeep, I think I
Yeah.
intentionally paired you and
Well,
him together.
I'd said like I want to I want to just make this work. So like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be his bodyguard. And
One of my favorite parts of that
and we
duo, by the
kind of
way-
just like we started to click. So
I love that because you're like, I'm your bodyguard, deal with it. And his character, the entire campaign, stop being my mom!
like that's what I'm here for.
Leave me alone! So
yeah.
funny.
Yeah. So that's our first characters. Your favorite character?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough for me.
I feel like everybody has a favorite character, but well, I have two characters in particular that I really enjoyed playing.
Go first.
My first one was a. This is when, so I feel like every player goes through that kind of, at least in D&D, they go through the homebrew phase,
Oh,
where you start to look
Yeah.
at things outside of what's actually, what is made and licensed by the company and what's made by fans that seems like it fits and it's all balanced with the rest of the
Yeah.
game. I found a creation. If I had the Redditor's name, I would say it so that
Yeah.
everybody could go
If
check
you
it
can
out.
find it, we'll link it.
Yeah,
in
because
the
nowadays
description.
it's so good. I mean,
Yeah.
it was good then.
Are you talking about Sword Mage?
No, it was a Kryptonian.
Oh, that's
Class.
what you're talking about.
oh, when you played Terra.
Yeah. And I played like the campaign that we played this in was kind of
It was a mythic odyssey
Yeah.
of Theros.
it was so essentially it was like
That campaign's
ancient
bittersweet for me.
Greece mythos, and my idea of my character that I wanted to play was I wanted to take the Kryptonian class and essentially play like a Supergirl, Superman kind of character, but it was flavored as it was essentially like an automaton made by what's his name, Hephaestus.
yeah, that
Duncan later.
you were an android pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I was a superhuman. I was like a cyborg. Yeah, I was like an android from Dragon
Yeah.
Ball.
Yeah. That was pretty much the idea.
And she was one of my favorite characters to play. And then I had another character, which was kind of in the same setting, but it was in a more Percy Jackson light, where all of our characters were the sons and daughters of
Demigods, yeah. They were the
Greek
sons
gods.
of Greek gods and they were demigods. Yeah.
And I played a character who was the son of Artemis, which does not
Does
work
not make any
if you
sense.
know
Yeah.
Greek mythos. Artemis is like not supposed to have any kids or ever get married or anything like that. But I was the son of Artemis, so I played like a fighter ranger combo named Halcyon. And,
He was cool.
He was my favorite.
Halcyon Iskander? Was that
That was I think it means like conqueror
Okay.
in Mesopotamian or something.
cool?
So I would love to pick any of my characters from those campaigns because I liked those characters, and they're probably the most work I've put into backstory.
But your best character.
But I'll
is-
get to that in a
is-
second.
Is
But in that campaign, I couldn't catch a break.
No.
oh dude, it was
None of
rough.
my characters got done justice. Every time I tried, it's like I'd finally do something cool, and then a particular player we won't name would do something really stupid and ruin my character.
It was
with
rough
it.
too because there had been a few inner like people conflicts, and someone wanted to, and we had another guy who was like willing to take over DMing for 6 weeks, and there was just so much tension around the table to where like
Yeah.
we couldn't even continue. Like there was a lot of tension for a lot of different reasons, and it just didn't work out well. But it was wild, that's for sure. A wild few games.
My favorite characters.
Oh.
Okay, so I would break it into categories. My favorite character, roleplay wise, with the boys has to be the Gurk.
Yeah.
Gurky,
Gacky
man.
the Sneak.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about a little bit about the history of Gurky?
Gurky, I'll give
How
you.
did you come up with Gurky?
I stole the idea because I'm original like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched an Achievement Hunter video a long time ago where they were playing a game called Red Dragon Inn. And Michael Jones, you are hilarious if you ever see this video. I think you're hilarious. Angry guy from New Jersey. What isn't the love? He picked up the character card of Gurky the Sneak, which is one of the characters in Red Dragon Inn, and he turned it into his own character and just started like, I'm Gacky the Sneak, and turned him into an absolute little gremlin of a creep.
And so I mildly adapted that, made him less creepy,
Yeah.
and just made him my own as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I made Gurky.
And so you played Gurky for like 2 years.
He's a
Because
halfling thief.
Halfling Thief,
Halfling.
Rogue, Halfling Rogue Thief. And we played it in, it started as a Waterdeep Dragon Heist game, the one we were talking about earlier. And it went on for like 2 years because it eventually became Scott's homebrew game. And we got like a ton of other people in, and sometimes they were there, sometimes we weren't. Sometimes we'd have 9 people around the table.
Sometimes we had
have
12.
7. Like,
Is Gurky the
was
only
crazy.
universally liked character?
I don't know. Probably like I don't know if there's any character any of us universally don't like, but
Well, no.
Gurky
I'm
was.
just saying.
We all really loved Gurky was the thing, and everyone got along with.
I tried to
Gurky,
act
and
as like glue. That was my goal.
You've always been glue though in the group and like in real life, but also in the game. Like it was great, but Gurky is my favorite character that you've played for sure.
Now, if we're talking character
Oh, you gotta do it
concepts.
though. Gurky used to do that all the time.
Alright. Character concept wise,
Yeah.
my favorite character that I only played him once or twice. You're gonna know him quite well. Was Drumley,
Yeah.
the dwarf
Oh.
gunslinger. So the premise behind him was very
Always liked
simple. I
Drumley.
took inspiration from The Hobbit, and the short version of his story was him and some friends went out hunting for big game one day. They were taking a break from the forges.
Yeah.
And while they were out for their week-long hunting trip, an ancient dragon wiped out their dwarven fortress, like just destroyed them all. And instead of going back to fight and die to the dragon like his group of friends did, Drumley stayed out there in the world, and he started traveling. And he made it his life's purpose to go spread joy to people by just going to taverns, partying, and having fun.
Yep.
Yeah. He was great.
He also had a hand mortar.
Yeah, he blew off
had
an orc
guns.
warlord's head.
Guns. Yeah.
His first major combat with the party.
For me, I played a lot of characters, and the thing is, like, yeah, I was always super invested, so I always wrote a backstory. Everyone that I played that, like, I wrote a backstory for. And the thing is, like, they were hard to play because I wanted to. You're trying to improv, and it's easy to improv as yourself. Like, if improv is a gift you have, it's for some people it's really difficult.
If I
But
may,
I always was trying to think like I want to role play 3-dimensionally. I want to really act as if I am this person, and that's really hard.
If I
And
may,
so-
making a big long backstory makes that harder.
That's what I'm saying.
Way harder.
That's what I'm saying. And so one character I played, and it's honestly just the guy I played the most, and he was a half orc named Cedric. And the thing is, there was really not much backstory for that guy at all. I mean, there was backstory, but I wrote none of it down. We had just talked about it. We just had an understanding. And so there are all these other guys, like a sorcerer with this huge backstory, a wizard with this huge backstory, another wizard, because I didn't really get to play the other one with a huge backstory, like all that kind of stuff. But they're hard to play. And so Cedric was really forgiving because he was a character who, like, he was in his I think he was a half orc in like his mid-30s or whatever, but I played it in the Waterdeep game. It was the bodyguard I was talking about, and he was a guy who basically had like, he wasn't doing what his old life's work was anymore, and so he was pretty much late into life trying to find himself.
Yeah.
And I'm a teenager trying to do the same thing, and so there was like a lot of forgiveness there, in the sense of I felt like because I was
It's really funny 'cause
but I felt like I was still able to figure out how I wanted to play and how I wanted to be, and not just even as a person. And sometimes the character would learn lessons, and I would learn those same ones in the process. And it's like, where, as with another character, if they had a huge developed backstory, I would have felt like, oh, but if I change them, it's not, like, the continuity is all messed up.
Yeah.
But with that guy, there was a lot of grace.
I was going to say, you definitely grew with your character, which is
did,
funny. I watched
yeah.
Jomai do the same thing.
Yeah.
As a proud friend to both of you, it was fascinating to see by playing D&D, watching both of you grow up into yourselves.
Yeah.
In a
It
weird
was
way.
interesting.
You think
I
so?
agree.
Interesting.
No.
Yeah.
Cedric is my favorite character that I've ever had in a table.
Really?
Oh, my.
And I'm not saying that just because you're my brother, but genuinely, Cedric was just, you know, he's the kind of concept, the kind of characters that I like is he's the protector, he's the guardian.
Yeah.
And you know, like Brandon was saying, you definitely grew with Cedric.
Yeah.
Cedric, I said it right.
Yeah.
I have to remember not to say Sedgwick because that was another half-orc fighter I had in another game.
Sedgwick, yeah.
He was that one bad guy.
That was hilarious.
In the other Waterdeep game.
Sedgwick. Yeah, that was so confusing.
The turncoat.
Dude.
But one of my favorite memories with you as Cedric was when he died. I think there was a role that happened where we were kind of planning for a while because you were getting kind of tired of the Blood Hunter thing.
Yeah, I was playing Blood Hunter, but I decided that like because of his backstory, I wanted him. The whole thing of him was like he was a like experienced. Because I did want to play someone that had a lot of experience, but like found himself in a crazy situation. So the idea was he's a fighter who had been a bounty hunter for like 9 years, and he was like in his early 30s, mid 30s or whatever, and had his power drained from him. And so he was left back at level 1. And so I had gone with Blood Hunter because my thought was like, well, maybe the whole like Blood Hunter oath is like saved his life, and he like swore himself to protect, you know, this noble or whatever, and that's his job. And eventually I thought, well, once that, we'll get to a point where that curse can break and he'll just
Become a fighter
again. And so I ended up going Eldritch Knight, which was
The
fun.
moment you made that switch was one of the most impactful moments of the campaign for me.
That was probably the best game we ever played.
Yeah.
Because I followed you up there like, Cedric, what are you doing? We're going to fight right now. And then you saved my life by kicking me out, and then you died. And you came back.
You died because of a vampire.
I was fighting my boss, who ended up being a vampire, but I refused to fight him because he was my boss, and like there was a lot of emotional attachment there.
So there was a moment, you know, when he died, and like I said, there was a role required.
We had a guy with a revivify scroll.
Yeah, I was able to revive you, and your character got brought back to life, and so there was this kind of like vision thing that went on. It was very Star Wars-esque, where Cedric
met one of his ancestors.
He met his grandfather, who he never knew, and his grandfather was a full-blooded orc. Cedric was a half-orc. Where
we like orcs.
The grandfather pretty much said, "Hey, you're not done yet. You need to get back in there and help your friends, help your family." And it's impactful for me because I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but it was the only session where I ever cried.
Oh man!
Because I think, I don't know, maybe it was because it was you, and there might have been something in there that I was also trying to show you. I'm getting emotional. Or tell you, and it's the only session where I ever cried. And it's my all-time favorite memory in any game.
That was such a good session.
That was probably the best session we ever had, and honestly, just to finish up with Cedric for a second, like it was a character going from I'm doing this because it's the job, like I'm protecting this guy because it's the job, to I'm gonna protect people because they're my family, and I want to be a good person, and that's what good people do.
And I love these people.
Right?
Yeah.
And I love these people. And at the same time, it's like, well, I'm getting closer to all you guys, and I'm figuring out in myself, well, I'm not going to just do the right thing because it's the right thing, and that's what you're supposed to do. I'm going to do the right thing because I want to, and because I care about you guys. And that's just the kind of person I want to be, right? Someone who doesn't just do the right thing with their actions, but also in their heart really means that, right? And that's kind of the change Cedric went through. But at the same time, that session was so cool because, I mean, it's the best roleplay we ever had.
Yeah.
It's the best improv we ever had. But it was like 4 hours
of combat.
We had done some combat earlier, but there was a lot of really tense roleplay moments where
that's right.
one of you stabbed some dude. He was this neutral good, like always happy-go-lucky guy, who basically is brought to his breaking point and murders a prisoner we were interrogating.
So okay,
Like,
here's what's happening.
He was a bad guy. He was a bad guy.
was a
I mean,
bad
that doesn't
guy.
make
He
it
was a
better,
bad
but
Okay,
Yeah.
these two prisoners, these really bad people.
really, really bad.
Well,
people.
one was really bad, one was really good. I purposely chose the really bad guy.
Yeah, we let the good guy go.
They
And then I think
captured.
one of our other guys
They
killed him.
captured my character was a homeless street urchin. He never knew his parents. Later on in time, we come to realize he was like a construct created of some kind. It was weird.
he was a robot.
He was a robot. But at the time, he didn't realize this. So his one father figure, an old man named Duncan that took care of him his whole life, was taken prisoner and thought to have been murdered by these people.
And they wouldn't give us any information.
Yeah.
So, in like the most cold, brutal moment of my D&D
This
life,
guy's tied to a chair and blindfolded.
I look at the nicer of the two and I go, I'm kind of rusty at this. I'm not sure I'll do it right the first time. And then I just straight up slit this guy's throat in front of his friend.
It was messed up.
crazy.
Everybody at the
But
table was
everyone
like,
was
"We
like-
need to take a break."
Like we were like, because Gurky doesn't do that kind of stuff. We were like, we was like no air in the room, and you literally went, I want you to change your alignment to chaotic neutral.
Yeah,
We were
no,
like,
and
"Whoa,
I think
that's never happened before.
I think Rice and Tyler were about ready to go like throw hands.
Yeah, they're like, what is?
They're both like,
that's too
"Whoa!"
far. Yeah.
Yeah,
Both-
that is the
which is
darkest thing
hilarious
I've
because
ever
both
done.
of their characters
Yeah.
were not good people,
No.
and they were
By the way,
about ready to throw
At
hands
the
with
beginning
you.
of the campaign, Tyler randomly stabbed a sports announcer so he could meet his dad.
Like it's weird. There's all this weird stuff, but like there was all this intrigue where we have these rival factions that are fighting each other that have possibly joined together, and they're also in charge of like they're the ones who've taken over the city, and we're trying to save the city. But then you got this other guy on our team who's in charge of a different, smaller faction that is like got some roots here, and he's trying to get them to help us. And we got one dude who's like a paladin, and he's like, there's vampires, I need to go purify the streets. And so he's marching out with like a tiny army getting ready to go fight, and we're over here just trying to get information, and you're stabbing dudes.
That
and
is
I'm
like the-
Gurky, what are you doing?
that is
But
like
you
the
decided,
darkest
like,
thing I've ever
we
done.
need to go. And I was like, okay, like let's go do this. But there was so much good roleplay. The combat was good. It was satisfying. That was like the best, definitely the best game we ever played.
And then when we did finally come back to those characters, Gurky was like a stay-at-home dad with like 3 kids.
That was a long time later.
It was
though.
hilarious.
He was a chef.
Yeah.
Yeah, he became a
Learned to
chef.
cook.
The most useless
Cook for his
Wizards
kids.
of the Coast. Chef is the most useless feat in the game. Fix it.
No, it's got to be healer. Healer's the most.
Healer's pretty
Healer's the
bad.
one.
Chef is useless.
At least Chef heals more than healer.
Fix it.
And if we're closing up here soon.
Yeah. We got 3 minutes left.
I have to say that throughout all, this campaign was 3 years ago.
2, 3. Yeah. Well, it was,
It's 3 years at this point.
Yeah.
'cause
But we played for 2
finished,
years.
We
We played for
finished
2
up
years, but it was 3
June
years ago.
2021.
yeah.
Oh man.
And despite all the other games I've played, all the other players I've been around, nothing beats that campaign and the specific people we hung out with. And I will always cherish those memories, and I am so glad that
it was
with
really
you
good,
guys.
man.
Well, because the thing more than the game itself, we got to build our relationships with each other
each
to
other.
a very strong level.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It was so interesting on many levels because we had 2 guys who we were really close with, but didn't know the rest of you super well.
Yeah.
And then there was a dynamic where 3 of you knew each other really well, and you knew me, but I was still getting to know you other 2 guys as more than just Scott's friends and not my friends.
To not to be mean, but when I very first joined the group to play D&D with you guys, I knew of you. You were the annoying pastor's kid,
Yeah, dude.
and now you're like, you 2 are my best friends by far.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Man.
That's what TTRPGs do.
Yeah.
It was bonding for us. Yeah, we
You bond together.
we got closer together as our characters learned about each other, and it was great. And there was a lot of hard lessons, a lot of we realize now we're just so simple, and we could have just talked about it and
Communication, guys.
said like, hey, like
Communication. Whenever you have a problem, just talk.
just talk. Don't stress about it. Don't talk behind. Like, don't ask the rest of the group, what do we think about this? Like, talk to
Yeah,
the person
just talk to
first
them.
and figure out why
Figure it
they're
out.
doing what they're doing. And if there's something you don't like realistically, just say, hey, let's just not do it. And let's just all stop doing that. Like, yeah.
I wouldn't change any of it for the world, though.
Yeah,
Even the
neither would I.
bad stuff.
That's
Even the
real.
bad
Well,
stuff.
we wouldn't be who we were and
Exactly.
who we are if we had
Mm-hmm.
not learned some of those things. So, yeah.
All right.
All right. That's that. Eventually, I want to do another one of these where we talk about DM tips and stuff.
Yeah.
Because we've done a fair bit of, and I feel like
He's more qualified than me.
each DM kind of
Don't say
learns a few specific things that they would like really encourage other people on. But
Yeah.
for the most part, like, we just love tabletop role-playing games, and that's the value of them. We love them because they're fun, but the value of them is that
They teach us.
you are literally like with your friends pretending to be other people, like other. That's a weird way to say it, but as you have the ability to grow as a person and to grow in relationship with your friends while playing a game.
Yeah.
And that's almost priceless. Like, there's nothing else like that, where you can not just have fun and play a game, but also grow as a person and grow with your friends.
Upon further reflection, though, probably don't be too dark.
No.
We got there a few times.
We got there, but we dialed it
We
back.
regret it. Like,
Yeah.
now we're just now we literally are the lightest of folks.
Yeah.
We are now all good Christian boys.
That's real.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
All right. Okay.
love you guys.
Love you guys
Love
too,
you
man.
too.
Hey,
I'm gonna
that's
miss
it. We
you two
have
so
three-way
much.
fist bumps.
That's real though. I'm gonna miss you guys.
Yeah.
Final thoughts
Final thoughts?
before we get out of here?
If you like D&D and ever watch this, I'm not promising anything, but if you watch this and you are interested, would ever be interested in seeing us play, just say it in the
that'd be
comments.
fun.
I'm not promising anything. I just want to know if you're interested.
I'm gonna spitball this idea. Nate, you can shut it down if you want.
Okay.
At 10,000 YouTube subscribers, we do a podcast in character.
That would be
As our
hilarious.
favorite D&D
Oh.
characters.
As what? Gurky,
As our favorite
Cedric,
D&D characters.
And who would you be? Gurky,
Probably
Cedric,
Halcyon.
and no, but I think it would have to be someone who.
You know what? It would be cool if it was somebody who
It'd
was
have to
from
be
that
Gurky,
campaign.
Cedric, and Sid.
Sid or like Ryder or something like that.
Ryder. It'd have to be
Yeah.
Ryder.
Oh wait, I could also do Randolph. I forgot about Randolph.
No. It's gotta be.
It's gotta be
It's gotta be
Gurky.
Gurky.
It's
Yeah.
gotta be Gurky.
I feel like all of you love Gurky more than I do.
Yes.
Best. Yeah. Gurky was the best.
All right.
Was the best.
Well, Gek, he wishes you all to have a fantastic.
I
Is
think
that
that's
the
a great
promise then?
idea.
10,000
10,000
subscribers. We do the
We
DM tips episode in character.
in character.
Oh, no.
And we might do a separate episode.
Just
or
let us
something.
know if you're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Final thoughts, you guys?
Play TTRPGs.
Yes.
Find some friends. Find some people you really care about, and
have
do it
fun.
with them. Yeah.
Communicate.
Communicate.
It's like a marriage.
Communication's It is.
I don't know what a marriage is like, so
That's okay.
you're learning.
I'm learning.
Yeah. Marriage counseling.
Marriage counseling.
Do
All
it
right.
before you get married. It's a great idea.
Premarital counseling.
Premarital counseling. Yeah.
This
Alright.
last 5 minutes just been us pointing at the camera and demanding things.
Yes.
We're demanding.
I demand you!
I know. Okay. What's your final thoughts, Scott?
Communication.
Communication. All right. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and I really mean that. May His face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn His face towards you and give you peace. We love you. We're praying for you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for watching, and